Hey everyone, this is Walter, and it's finally time to read some more of Russell Greer's book about why he sued Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift just released an album, and she's richer than ever. So let's see if Russell comes out on top of this or not. Let's get started with Russell Greer's book, Why I Sued Taylor Swift. This might be a little long, but I want to read a story about Russell getting robbed by a sex worker. Kind of. Going on a date tomorrow, but I don't know what I'm more excited for, the hot girl or the hot Godiva chocolate brownie sundae. Now I know prostitutes always call it a date, but Russell had apparently set up a non-sex meeting for the girlfriend experience, as it's often called. So he's paying a woman to make out with him and such. First date, nervous. I like how it says virgin in the corner, because Russ would definitely be a virgin if it wasn't for prostitution. Well, that's the last time I go on a date without seeing the girl's face first. Nice bodies don't make for nice people. Yeah, this one is pretty disjointed. I don't know why you would think a nice face means she's a nice person. Okay, so a few days ago I got robbed on a date. This is true. I'm still getting paid by one of my former companies because of stocks in the company. I no longer work there though, thanks to Taylor Swift. I've been fired from like 4 or 5 jobs because of Taylor, so you can kind of understand why I have a vendetta to unmask her and bring her to justice. Since I'm lonely, I decided to pay an escort. I had talked to this escort for 3 weeks. I wasn't planning on doing anything illegal with her. I was just wanting a hot girl to take to dinner and then take home and make out with. This escort and I agreed to 3 hours for a couple $100. I had never seen this girl's face, but she had a nice bod, so I figured she would have a hot face. She had 16 positive reviews. I was just wanting a cuddle buddy who would French kiss me sort of thing. For those who know me, I frequently pay women, and I am currently involved with a lawsuit in federal court that has been going on for a year that is trying to legalize brothels, so me getting an escort should be of no shock. Honestly, the posting about it on social media is way more bizarre than the actual paying for sex. I ended up getting a table at an upscale restaurant in Salt Lake City. The escort was 30 minutes late. I sipped on a Coke and played phone games as I waited for my hot date. Finally, a lady walked in and was escorted to my table. Excuse my bluntness, but I was not attracted to her. Her nose was large, and I almost thought she was a bait and switch. I became uneasy and asked questions slyly confirming if it was her, and discovered it was. I tried saying that I wasn't interested anymore. Imagine you show up and it's this guy, and then he finds you unacceptable. It's like, you serious? She asked me for the money. I gave hints I didn't want to pay. She then threatened to scream and make a scene if I didn't give her the money. Since I had already gotten a drink, it wasn't like I could walk out, because I still had to pay. Under duress, I gave her the money. She then began to order a lot, and began to order lots of wine, and got drunk at the table. I don't drink alcohol or anything like that, so I just sat there uncomfortably as she got drunk and speaking loudly. She then cussed out the waiter because she didn't like her food. She bought nearly $100 worth of food. Oh my god, Russell is so passive, he can't do anything to stop this woman. If she was trying this to me, I'd be the one making the scene, cause fuck that. That's assuming Russell's a reliable narrator here, which he might not be. After dinner, I figured I might as well go to her house, to kiss and cuddle since I had paid. When we got to her place, it reeked of bad things. She then took off her clothes. She told me to get into my boxers, and so I did. She then began to dance very weirdly, and I was so confused. She rubbed up against me and grinded me. I was so uncomfortable because I wasn't attracted to her. I asked if we could cuddle and kiss. I was willing to kiss anything because I was so lonely, like I had paid for. And she said that she only dances, or that I had to pay her $1,000 to kiss her. I was in absolute shock. Finally, she got mad and offended and kicked me out because I wasn't aroused. Moral of the story, this is why we need to legalize places for consenting adults to go, so that scams like this can't happen. You know, that's hilarious because he details something like this happening at a brothel earlier in the book. Even regulation can't keep perpetual victims like Russell from being victimized. Okay, now let's get back to the story. Last time, Russell's lawyer friend, who definitely exists, was firebombed. But don't worry, he's mostly fine. It wasn't even in the news somehow. Out of nowhere, a few men broke up the fight between the phone man and me. Don't sue me, the phone man said with an angry look, referencing my lawsuit with Taylor Swift. I shook my head at the phone guy, wanting to swear at him. Sitting at a table in the corner, an older man suddenly stood up pointing at me and exclaimed, "He sued Taylor Swift." Another man stood up and said, "He's extorting Taylor Swift to go on a date with him by suing her." I saw it all on the news. The diner patrons began talking amongst themselves about me. Sensing trouble, I quickly left the diner, but many of the patrons followed after me. "Hey, buddy," one of the businessmen yelled, following me. "You know you just committed a crime." I finally snapped. I turned back and faced him. This part is just so Reddit that happened. I know the whole book is, with the visuals of people just standing up and pointing at Russell like, "It's a bird, it's a plane." Yeah, crazy to expect us to believe this. "No, you know what's a crime?" I said with anger. "Following people and harassing them and their families, posting their information online. That is the crime." "I only understood half of what you just said," the businessman mocked me. Duck lips. "Do you understand this?" I said as I shoved him. Not realizing my own strength, I pushed the man over a fire hydrant, which caused him to trip and fall backwards onto the wet cement. The man looked so pathetic, lying on the ground, red in the face. I closed my eyes, ashamed of what I had done. The entire Taylor Swift incident had destroyed my life. It brought out the worst in me and others. I quickly ran off as a few men helped the crying businessman back onto his feet. I like how he calls it wet cement, when he obviously just means wet pavement or whatever. I think I'd have to be crying too if Russell got the best of me somehow. The stress from being internationally slandered began to wear on me, as if being slandered by Taylor Swift wasn't enough. Having people stare and point because I was in the news for being frivolous was a bit too much. I just wanted to be understood. I wanted fairness. I was trying to bring attention to a misrepresentation given by a famous celebrity, but nobody would listen. It just brought out more hatred than before. My sincere hope was that the judge would let me present all of my evidence and new arguments, but I didn't have much time. The trial was in less than an hour, and all of my evidence and documents were still being processed at the FedEx Print Center. Anxiously awaiting my documents, I stood in line at the print center to see if they were ready, but the older woman in front of me had a very large order. "I want 500 pictures of my poodle, perfectly cut into 5x4 squares," the lady told the FedEx office clerk. Good fucking night, Russell. Why'd you wait until the last hour before you needed this? I'm a pretty big procrastinator myself, but this is unimaginable. Judge Judy would say, "Where'd you think you were going today? A tea party?" "Alright, that'll be $200, the clerk told the woman. As the woman fished around in her purse for her money, I stepped to the counter impatiently. "Sir, I'll be with you in a moment," the clerk said to me, ignoring me. "I did an order 4 hours ago, and it's still not ready. I have a court trial in less than an hour with a celebrity. I'm on the news for it. I need those friggin' documents," I said very frustratedly. The teenage clerk looked at me like he didn't care. "Can you get your priorities straight?" I asked. The clerk gave a giant moan, and then he walked around his work area like a lost dog. I didn't have time for this unprofessionalism. "My last name is Greer. Russell," I explained. "What was your name?" he asked, not understanding me. I forgot that most people can't understand my G's. "Greer. Greer," I spelled out slowly for the clerk. The clerk paused. "Clear?" he asked, thinking that's what my last name was. "No," I snapped. I quickly jotted down my last name. Not having the best handwriting, my name was a little messy. "I can't read that," the clerk said. Man, you'd think if you had a problem with people understanding you, you'd at least want to have legible handwriting. But Russell is so allergic to competence that he can't even write his name right. "Oh, for the love of God," I exclaimed. I couldn't believe that I was dealing with this guy. I was about to scream. You know what? Never mind. Racing against the clock, I hurried out of the FedEx Print Center and called the clerk's office of the small claims court. "Hi, I have a trial in 30 minutes and I'm unable to bring my physical evidence. May I show a PowerPoint that has my electronic evidence?" I asked the clerk who answered the phone. I had created a slideshow as a backup, just in case something went wrong with my tangible evidence. "Of course," the clerk said. "Awesome, thank you," I said happily. "You just need to bring your own HDMI cord," the clerk explained. Her words hit me like a sucker punch. Like an Olympic runner, I ran with my satchel over my shoulders, towards Radio Shack, which was 4 blocks away from the courthouse. The trial was in 10 minutes. I ran through traffic lights, dodged cars, rushed past people to get an HDMI cord. It was like a real-life version of Frogger. Luckily, I didn't have to jump on any logs or lily pads, floating down an acid river like the game had you do. Finally, I proclaimed very weakly, "You have reached your destination," mimicking this GPS voice as I had reached the store, doing a somersault. The store cashiers looked at me surprised. This debacle is entirely his fault. What was stopping him from getting his evidence together a week early? Even that's kind of last minute. "HDMI, cord. I need one fast," I said, standing up, gulping for air. "Which size do you need?" a female clerk asked me. "Size?" I said, not knowing that there were sizes. I had never used an HDMI cord before. "There's sizes?" "Yes, 6-inch, 12-inch, and 2 feet, the clerk explained. I whipped out my phone and called the courthouse again, but they had probably already gotten ready for the trial, as they didn't answer. I think that any reasonable person would just buy the longest one, in case it was needed, but Russell is not a reasonable person. "Give me the 6-inch, I ordered. The clerk got the cord, and then I paid for it. Before the clerk could say anything about my receipt, I ran like I had never ran before, out of that store. If they didn't know any better, they could have thought I was shoplifting and trying to get away. But the truth was far from that. I was in a hurry to save my reputation. The winter evening, frost bit my face as I ran and staggered to the courthouse. When I finally got to the courthouse, a news van was parked outside. I went through security as I saw John Smith trying to bar the news crew from entering the courtroom. John was throwing a fit as the bailiff allowed the crew into the courtroom. As I entered the courtroom, the court gallery was packed with onlookers. Some I knew, most I didn't know. They came to watch the much-hyped showdown between Russell Greer and Taylor Swift. If any betting was going on, the odds were not in my favor. As I sat down, I noticed a cold, hard glare burning off the side of my head. I slowly turned around, and Taylor Swift's lawyer was giving me the look of death. John Smith wanted to gut me alive and then dice me into little pieces. That's what his eyes told me, at least. His stare got thrown off when the bailiff called out, "All arise." Everyone in attendance stood up as Judge Harris walked in. Judge Harris was an older man with gray hair and was heavyset. I had seen the judge before in public, but had never interacted with him. The roles of small claims court judges in Utah were a little unfair in how they were created. They weren't duly appointed or full-time judges who were supposed to study a case without bias. Small claims judges in Utah were unpaid judges who worked full-time jobs as attorneys in their own private practice, who did volunteer work acting as judges in order to get their required hours. The judges weren't in it to be impartial and to bring about justice, as is what a judge is supposed to do. They just played the part in order to keep their licenses as lawyers. It was a rigged and unfair system. Yeah, so Russell is setting up his excuses here. It's not because he showed up late and unprepared. The court was just rigged. Also, no one forced him to sue her in Utah. His lawyer friend even told him the jurisdiction made no sense. Nothing about this is anyone else's fault but his. "Thank you," the judge said as he sat down. "You all may be seated." The court attendants sat down upon the judge's instruction. "We are here today because one man thought he was wronged by a famous celebrity, and so he felt the need to sue her. Before we begin, let me just remind everybody that this court does not entertain frivolous, malicious, hokey lawsuits." The judge openly lectures, though he most likely directed the lecture at me. He paused for a moment, collecting his thoughts. "The case that comes before us today is the case of Russell Godfrey Greer versus Taylor Swift. Is Mr. Greer present today?" the judge asked. Timidly, I stood up. "Yes, sir," I said, raising my hand. The judge rolled his eyes. "Is Taylor Swift or her counsel here today?" the judge asked. John Smith proudly stood up, doing a little strut. "Right here, sir," John exclaimed, striking a poser's pose. I do like how he was described as this cool, high-powered lawyer in the earlier scenes, but now Russell's calling him a poser. But he calls himself a poser sometimes when he takes pictures, so maybe he just thinks it's anyone who strikes a pose. "Show off," I coughed quietly. "Alright, may the two parties come to their designated seating," the judge invited. John Smith skipped excitedly to his seat, ready to eat me alive. Nervous because I did not have any physical evidence, I staggered to my table. Before I could sit down, John Smith jumped up. I almost thought he was going to start dancing on the table. He was so excited to beat me on live TV. The news crew filmed in the corner of the room. "I would like to go first," John cockily said. Okay, the judge accepted. I tried interjecting, the energetic John Smith. Your Honor, in the traditional court system, the plaintiff is allowed to present his evidence first, as he is the one bringing the complaint. I tried explaining to the fake judge. Do you have your evidence, if any? The judge inquired. It's stuck at FedEx, I said. The audience in the court gallery began laughing. Okay, I think I'm going to end it there. Next time will pretty much be a snuff film. He's obviously about to get destroyed. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like the video, please give it a like. Make sure you let me know what you think about Mr. Greer and his lawsuit in the comments. It'll make me more likely to cover it again soon. If you're new here, consider subscribing for more of this and also Reddit content. Big thanks finally to my awesome patrons who help by supporting me more directly over on Patreon. I'll be shouting them out by name soon here. Well, yeah, there's Russell. I'll be back to him in a month or so, and then maybe we can read the transcript from the court case and see how truthful he was. I will be back soon with more Reddit, though. Have a great day, everyone, and make sure you don't ask for the 6-inch cord. We'll see that come back to haunt him next time, I think.